Well, g'day curd nerds. Today we're making Fourme d'Ambert. It's a difficult to pronounce cheese. It's made in France normally, and I think it has an AOC regulation. However, this is a slight variation on Fourme d'Ambert, and it is going to be a lovely cheese. It's a blue cheese. It's slightly pressed, and it is normally quite tall, as in height of the cheese. But other than that, it's a fairly straightforward blue cheese, which we're going to see how to make now. Well, the ingredients for this cheese is 10 litres or 10 quarts of full cream milk, an eighth of a teaspoon, that's a heaped dash of mesophilic culture, I used MO30 in this case, 1/16 of a teaspoon or a pinch of Penicillium roqueforti, I used the mild variety for this one, 1.5 ml or quarter of a teaspoon of calcium chloride in quarter of a cup of non-chlorinated water, and 1.5 ml or quarter of a teaspoon of liquid rennet in quarter of a cup of non-chlorinated water. And you'll also need some saturated brine solution. I used an 18% saturation for this brine. So I'm just whisking there to get rid of any cream lumps that are in the milk. So you bring the temperature of the milk up to 32 degrees Celsius or 90 Fahrenheit. Then once it's at the target temperature, we add the mesophilic culture. And then we add in the Penicillium roqueforti. I'm going to let that rehydrate for a minute or two. So then we give it a good stir, just top to bottom, stirring it all the way through the milk. So there's no ripening period for this cheese. We're going to add the calcium chloride as soon as that's all mixed through. So there's the calcium chloride diluted in the non-chlorinated water. So give that a good stir before we add the rennet. So there's the rennet solution. Now we stir for no longer than 1 minute. So once that's stirred, just make sure that the milk has basically stopped moving. And we put the lid on to make sure no hairs or dust gets into your milk. And we allow that now to set for 1 hour and 30 minutes or 90 minutes, same thing. So leave that undisturbed. And then we're going to test for a clean break. A clean break just makes when you put your finger in and slide it along, there's a nice clean line. Yep, that's perfect. Now we're going to cut the curds to 1.25 centimetre or half-inch cubes. I use my trusty curd cutter there. So this is creating the horizontal cuts. And for the vertical cuts, I'm just going to use a long curd knife. Soon. There we go. So just make sure that your cuts are fairly equal and that you go all the way down to the bottom of the pot. So one way and then perpendicular the other way. You should have some lovely cubes. So I'm going to let the curds heal now for 5 minutes, popping the lid back on again. Thanks, Siri. Then once the 5 minutes has elapsed, we start stirring the curd, and we're going to stir for 1 hour. No more, no less. And we maintain the temperature at the 32 degrees Celsius or 90 Fahrenheit, just adjusting if we need to. There's no heat on at the moment. The milk usually keeps its heat quite well. So that's after about 20 minutes. That's after 30 minutes. Now this is after 45 minutes. So you can see that the curds shrink all the time. And there we go, that's after an hour. So they're about pea size, a little bit smaller than that, size of baked beans. We'll let the curd settle for 5 minutes. It makes draining a little bit easier. So we take that over to the sink area, and we're going to make sure we've got a cheesecloth lined colander, and we're going to ladle the curds into the mould. So we'll just ladle all the way through first, and then we start putting in the curds. So if it doesn't all fit, just ladle up as high as you can, and then come back in 10 minutes time, and then put another scoop in. And you probably have to do this for about 30 minutes while it keeps draining. So just keep doing that until all the curds are finished. There's still some left. Patience is a virtue when you're making cheese, as you can see. There we go, we've got it all in now. Fantastic. Alright, so I'm just going to fold the cheesecloth over the top and put a foller on top now. I'm just going to fill up a milk carton. That's 2 kilos of weight, or 4.4 pounds, for an hour. It presses down a fair bit, actually. So you get a fair bit of whey draining out. And now we're going to take it out of the mould, and we're going to turn it over. Do this very gently because it's only very lightly pressed. Just turn that over and pop it back in the mould. I'm going to lightly press it at 5 kilograms or 11 pounds for 8 hours. So very lightly on the spring. So 8 hours later, we take it out of the press. Now the cheese is fully formed. And turn it over. Oh, that's right, I didn't have to press it anymore. I got a bit carried away there. So yeah, you only need 8 hours for pressing. So we're just going to take it out of the basket now, and we're going to brine the cheese. We're going to brine for 12 hours. So here's some brine I prepared earlier. That's at 18%. There's a bit too much brine in there. So even though I pop the little top on, it comes out everywhere. That's why you do this in the sink area, so you don't make a mess. So the cheese is fully submerged. Now you can turn it over every 6 hours. So that's turning once. And then the next day, was the next day for me, just remove that from the brine and pop it back in the container. You just want it to sit in the basket for a little bit longer, just to make sure that it doesn't lose its shape. I've been caught with this before when I'm making blue cheese, that it changes shape after this time. So I've left it in there for about another 8 hours And then we're going to air dry it now. So it's formed quite well. It's not going to lose its shape now. It's quite dry on top. So we're just going to air dry that for the next 2 days. And just to make sure no fluff or anything gets over the top of it, just put a cheesecloth over the top. Just keep that away from cats and dogs and small children who want to poke it and all that sort of stuff. So once it feels like a clammy handshake, then we wipe it down with a brine solution. Just wash it all over. This helps dry it out a little bit further. So just making sure there's no fluff or anything that could collect on the surface of your cheese. And it also aids the growth of the Penicillium Roque 40. So once that's all clean, we pop it into our we pierce the cheese first, so horizontally and vertically. So there's a lot of holes in this cheese, so not only top and bottom, which we'll do there in the top first, so that's vertically. So I'm just using my trusty thermometer probe thermometer, dairy thermometer. There we go, and then we're doing the horizontal one, so I'm going all the way around, just rolling the cheese and just doing 3 holes, top, middle, bottom, and just continue that all the way through. And I'm piercing as deep as I can. And this allows the blue veins to grow because the Penicillium Roque 40 needs oxygen to grow. So by creating those air pockets within your cheese, I'm just doing the other side there now, that's what helps form the blue veins in blue vein cheese. So now that's all pierced, I'm going to put it into a ripening container. Now it just fit. I should have used a bigger ripening container, which I actually do transfer it at about the 1 month mark into a bigger container because it just wasn't getting enough oxygen. And we'll see that a little bit in a minute. But we're going to ripen that at 10 degrees Celsius, 50 Fahrenheit, at about 85 to 90% humidity. So this is after about a week. We're turning it daily for the first 2 weeks. So make sure there's a little bit of blue there. There's a little bit on the sides as well. So just make sure when you do turn it, take it fully out of the box, and then we're going to drain any excess whey out of the box. So you can see slightly blue on the outside now at 2 week mark. It'll grow quite rapidly from here on in. So turn it over and then clean the box out with a paper towel is what I normally do. And if the bottom of the cheese is really moist, Penicillium Roque 40 doesn't like too much moisture on the outside of the cheese. It won't grow properly. So just pat that down and then pop it back into the box again, then pop it in the fridge. So this blue-grey colour mould will develop after the 2 weeks, and it should start to coat the entire cheese all over. So keep turning it. I turn it about twice a week, and this is what will start to form after about a month. It should be a lot greyer than this. I found that maturation box I was using was too small, not enough oxygen, so I thought it was going to fail at this stage. However, it came back with a vengeance. So you can see that the mould is grey. It's not entirely Penicillium candidum, which does like a bit more moisture, which I didn't even add to the cheese. I think I got it from the ripening box I had. So I transferred it to a bigger ripening box, allowed more airflow, more oxygen, and I didn't fasten the lid all the way down when I put the lid back on again. So it's just got to be elevated, it's got to be able to drain, it can't sit in its own way. So 2 weeks, so after 6 weeks, this is what happened. Fantastic effort. I really like the way the mould formed on this cheese. It does look like a big camembert, but it's not really. That is actually grey mould, blue-grey mould around it. Yeah, it has some great blue mould growth. Now this is after 8 weeks, and this is actually ready now to either eat or you can wrap it up for storage. So I'm going to let it ripen for another month because I like a really strong blue cheese. So what I'm going to do is use aluminium foil, and I'm going to tear a bit off. That's going to place over the top, just like that, and fold it down. So shiny side up, dull side down. So then flip it over and then do the same for the other side, just a square sheet. Pop it on again. Then to make sure that you close off all air gaps. So what you're trying to do is, so we're going to roll that up. You're trying to limit the growth of the bacteria now, and you want the Penicillium roqueforti to get right into those holes that you made earlier. So I'm going to leave that in the cheese cave now for another month, and we'll have a taste test in about 4 weeks' time. So there you go, that's Fourme d'Ambert. Hard to say, but easy to make. So don't forget that if you want to pick up the ingredients for this cheese, pop over to littlegreenworkshops.com.au, and if you'd like to be a patron and support the next video, pop over to patreon.com and check out another blue cheese. We've got Stilton there. Thanks for watching, Curd Nerds, and we'll see you next time.